ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्ति भवति नैष्टिकी। Hare Krishna, Dandot Pranam. Today we continuing Srimad Bhagwatam, Canto 11, Chapter 22, Name Elements of Material Creation, Shloka number 13 to 25. Sattvam Jnanam Raja Karma, Tama Ajnanam Iha Uchyate, Guna Vetikara, Guna Vetikara, Kala Swabhava Sutram Evacha, Purusha Prakriti Vektam Ahankara Nabha Anila, ज्योति आपक्षिति इति तत्वानि उक्तानि मे नव। श्रोत्रं त्वग्दर्शनं घ्राणः जिह्वा इति ज्ञानशक्तयः वाक्पाणि उपस्थ पायु अग्रिहि कर्माणि अंग उभयं मनः शब्द स्पर्श रस गन्धः रूपं च एत अर्थजातयः गति युक्ति उत्सर्ग शिल्पाणि कर्म आयतन सिद्धयः सर्ग आदौ प्रकृतिः यस्य कार्यकारण रूपिणी सत्व आदिभिः गुणैः धत्ते पुरुष अव्यक्त इक्षते व्यक्त आदय विकुर्णाः धातव पुरुषे इक्षया लब्धवीर्या सृजन्ति अंडं संहता प्रकृते बलात् सप्त एव धातवः इति तत्र अर्थः पंचक आदयः ज्ञानम् आत्मा उभयधार तथा ततः देह इंद्रिय असवः षट् इति अत्रापि भूतानि पंचषष्ठ पर पुमान् तैः युक्त आत्मसम्भूतैः सृष्ट्वा इदं समापविशत् चत्वारि एव इति तत्रापि तेज आप अन्नम् आत्मनः जातानि तै इदं जातं जन्म अवयविनः खलु संख्याने सप्तदशके भूतमात्र इंद्रियाणि च पंच पंच एक मनसा आत्मा सप्तदश स्मृतः तद्वत् षोडश संख्याने आत्मा एव मन उच्यते भूत इंद्रियाणि पंच एव मन आत्मा त्रयोदश एकादश तु आत्मा असौ महाभूत इंद्रियाणि च अष्टौ प्रकृते च एव पुरुषः च नव इति अथ इति नाना प्रसंख्यान तत्त्वनाम ऋषिभिः कृतं सर्वं न्यायं युक्तिं मत्वात् विदुषां किम अशोभनम। ट्रांसलेशन एंड purport by the Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In this world, the mode of goodness is recognized as knowledge, the mode of passion as fruitive work, and the mode of darkness as ignorance. Time is pursued as the agitated interaction of the material modes, and the totality of functional capacity is embodied by the Primal Sutra or Mahat Tattva. I have described the 9 basic elements as the enjoying soul, nature, nature's primeval manifestation of the Mahat Tattva, false ego, ether, air, fire, water, and earth. Hearing, touch, sight, smell, or taste are 5 knowledge acquiring senses, my dear Uddhava, and speech, the hands of genitals, the anus, and the legs constitute the 5 working senses. The mind belongs to both these categories. Sound, touch, taste, smell, and form are the objects of the knowledge acquiring senses, and movement, speech, excretion, and manufacture are functions of the working senses. In the beginning of creation, nature assumed by the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Its form as the embodiment of all subtle causes and gross manifestation within the universe. The Supreme Personality of Godhead does not enter the interaction of material manifestation, but merely glances upon nature. As the material elements, headed by the Mahat Tattva, are transformed, they receive their specific potencies from the glance of the Supreme Lord, and being amalgamated by the power of nature, they create the universal egg. According to some philosophers, there are 7 elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, and ether, along with the conscious spirit soul and the supreme soul, who is the basis of both the material elements and the ordinary spirit soul. According to this theory, the body, senses, life, air, and all material phenomena are produced from these 7 elements. Other philosophers state that there are 6 elements. The 5 physical elements, earth, water, air, fire, and ether. And the 6th element, the supreme personality of Godhead, that supreme Lord endued with the elements that he has brought forth from himself, creates this universe and then personally enters within it. Some philosophers propose the existence of 4 basic elements, of which 3, fire, water, and earth, emanates from the fourth, the self. Once existing, these elements produce the cosmic manifestation in which all material creation takes place. Some calculate the existence of 17 basic elements, namely the 5 gross elements, the 5 objects of perception, the 5 sensory organs, the mind, and the soul as the 17th element. According to the calculation of 16 elements, the only difference from the previous theory is that the soul is identified with the mind. If we think in terms of 5 physical elements, 5 senses, the mind, the individual soul, and the supreme Lord, there are 13 elements. Counting 11, there are the soul, the gross elements, and the senses. 8 gross and subtle elements plus the supreme Lord would make 9. Thus, great philosophers have analyzed the material elements in many different ways. All of their proposals are reasonable since they are all presented with ample logic. Indeed, such philosophical brilliance is expected of the truly learned. Purport by the Srila Prabhupada, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The impetus for the interaction of the material element is the forward movement of time. Because time is passing, the embryo grows within the womb, gradually comes out, grows up, produces by byproducts, dwindles, and dies. All of this is due to the pushing of time. In the absence of the time factor, the material elements do not interact but remain inert in the form of pradhan. Lord Krishna is establishing the basic categories of the material world so that human beings can conceive of the Lord's creation, where the categories not condensed. Analysis and conceptualization would be impossible since the Lord's potencies are infinite. Although there are numerous divisions of material elements within the basic division, the spirit soul is always to be understood as a distinct transcendental element meant for residence in the kingdom of God. Prakriti or nature is originally unmanifest and later becomes manifest as the Mahat Tattva. Although the living entity is Purush and enjoyer, the real process by which he can enjoy is by satisfying the transcendental senses of the Lord, just as the hand aids by supplying food to the stomach. Within material nature, the living entity becomes a false enjoyer, forgetting his subservience to the Lord. The material elements, as well as the living entity and the supersoul, are thus systematically analyzed to demonstrate to the conditioned soul his actual constitutional position beyond material nature. 11 elements are mentioned in this verse. Here, the word Utsarga refers to evacuation by the genitals and anus and thus constitute 2 elements. In this way, 10 elements are listed here in 2 sets of 5. The personality of Godhead is not subject to transformation like the subtle and gross material elements. Thus, the Lord is a vector or not materially manifest at any stage of cosmic evaluation, regardless of the specific method of cataloging the material elements. The Lord remains the ultimate creator, maintainer, and annihilator of the total cosmic situation. Having explained his own viewpoint, the Lord now summarizes various other analytical methodologies. Srila Sridhar Swami said that according to this philosophy, the ordinary living entity is included within the category of the super soul. This theory thus accepts only the supreme personality of Godhead and thus five physical elements. According to the theory of 13 element, the senses, objects, aroma, taste, form, touch, and sound are considered by products of the interaction of the senses and physical matter. The material world has been analyzed in innumerable ways by innumerable brilliant philosophers, but the conclusion is always one: the supreme personality of Godhead, Vasudev. Aspiring philosophers need not waste their precious time showing of their intellectual brilliance, because there is little left to analyze on the material platform. One should simply surrender to the absolute truth, the supreme element, Lord Sri Krishna, and uncover one's eternal consciousness of God. Thus end the purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Ein Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manabhishtam Sthapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vande Ham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavancha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitancha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात देश तारिणे वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा. Dandavat pranam. Today we continuing chapter 22 elements of material creation, canto of Srimad Bhagwatam 11, shloka number 13 to 25. According to the name, all elements who learn a person acquire or thinking according to his, they given, someone said 24, someone said 25, 26, 11, 13, 9, 7, like that. They explaining as logically as they thought, and that are described here in detail. Time is pursued as the agitated interaction of the material modes, and the totality of functional is embodied by the primeval sutra or Mahatvato. Prabhuji will tell you in detail. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam. Vancha kalpatarubhecha rupa sindhubhe evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam Mataji. So here we are seeing that Krishna is continuing the work, the explanation being given to Uddhava. So here what we are also seeing is how the creation has also done. So initially Krishna says that there is actually no difference between ultimate enjoyer and the supreme controller. And if you are supposing any distinction between them, then it is senseless. And any ordinary knowledge is simply a quality of material world. not of the proper soul. The raw substance of the material world, material nature, is designated according to its different phases. In the mode of goodness, it is known as knowledge. In the mode of passion, as activity, and in the mode of darkness, as ignorance. While for Krishna, time is another name, and for the material propensity, another name could be Sutra or Mat. Krishna keeps on explaining the 25 elements of nature, which are namely Krishna, the nature, the Mahat, these three. Then you have false ego, then you have ether, air, fire, water, and earth, these five Panchabhutas. Then you have the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the skin, the the sensory organs. Then you have the objects, the speech, the hands, the feet, the genitals, the anus. Then you have mind, sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. So these 25 elements. Krishna is explaining that just by glancing at nature, the Supreme Personality creates this material nature which is under control of Supreme Lord. It then assumes the various forms of causes and effects and carries out the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material world. So, even though Purusha and Prakriti appear non different, there is an ultimate difference between the two. Material creation is produced from the modes of Prakriti, and its quality is transformation. The living entities who are inimical to Supreme Personality of Godhead take on and give up various kinds of material bodies through the agency of their own material work. But those who are ignorant of the self, because of being bewildered by illusion, do not understand this. The mind, which is filled with ideas of fruitive work, simply takes the senses with it from one body to another, while the soul follows along. Nevertheless, on account of being totally absorbed in sense gratification, one cannot remember the past existence. And this is what continues. So, the knowledge that we talk about is actually of no use. The fruitive work that we do in the mode of passion increases our bindings, and our ignorance is in the mode of darkness. So, it is important that we understand all these aspects in detail. So, let us revise them again. The nine basic elements, which is soul, nature, primeval manifestation of Mahat Tattva, false ego, ether, air, fire, water, and earth. So these are the nine basic elements. And then we have the knowledge acquiring senses, which are very easy to remember: hearing, touch, sight, smell, and taste. So they acquire the knowledge. Five knowledge acquiring senses. So you had these nine basic elements, then five knowledge acquiring senses. And then we have the working senses: speech, hands, genitals, anus, and legs. So they are all in the center of the body. They are the five working senses. And we have mind at the topmost, which can be knowledge acquiring as well as working. So 9 plus 5 plus 5 plus 1. So sound, touch, taste, smell, and form are the objects of knowledge acquiring senses. And movement, speech, excretion, and manufacture are functions of the working senses. So we know that uh, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he actually is not entering the interaction of material manifestation, but he is merely glancing upon nature. And just by his glance, there is Prakriti which gets agitated. The material elements They are headed by Mat Tattva and they get transformed. They get specific potencies because of the glance of Krishna. And as a result of that, they get amalgamated by the power of nature and so create the universal locus or egg. Now, according to some philosophers, there are 7 elements. So, the Panchatattva, Panchamahabhuts, earth, water, air, fire, ether, and the two, that is the Atma and Paramatma, spirit soul and supreme soul. So, they think that this is the basis of both material elements and spirit. The body, senses, life, air are produced from these 7 elements. While others feel that it is only 6 elements, that is the Pancha Tattvas and Krishna, not the soul. While some feel that there are only 4 elements, of which 3 are amongst the 5, that is fire, water, earth, and the self. So this is how they believe that everything is going on. While some say there could be 17 basic elements. So 5 gross elements, 5 objects of perception, 5 sensory organs, the mind, the soul. While some feel it is only 16. That is, soul and mind are one. So whatever way it gets calculated, all of the proposals are reasonable because they are presented with logic. And so philosophical brilliance is expected of the truly learned. So what it means for us? Why is it that we should be trying to understand it? For 2, 3 aspects. One, Krishna is the supreme personality. And all philosophers, all philosophies, they understand it. And so we did not waste our precious time showing off our intellectual brilliance because practically there is little left to analyze on the material platform. We should simply surrender to absolute truth and uncover one's eternal consciousness of God. And this is what Krishna has told us. Sarvatarman parityajya mamekam sharanam vrajaha. So we need to understand this. That is first takeaway. Second takeaway, which we get from understanding this is we are at times, the soul is at times considered along with mind, along with Krishna. So these 3 are very intricately related to each other. And actually, it is the mind which, if not controlled, is the cause of the downfall of the soul. And hence, control of mind is very, very essential. If we fail to control mind, we fail to control life. So even if there is so much of evolution, still we'll continue to be bound by our karmic actions because of the dictations of the mind and never be able to overcome this cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death. So mind control becomes the primary activity which we need to be doing to be successful to get out of this material. So how do we do it? Because we are in Kali Yuga, where there are so many distractions, right from the mobile in front of us to everything. Srila Prabhupada says, the mind can be a friend as well as a foe. It is up to us to decide what we want it to make. And he gives us the formula to make mind the best of the friend. He talks of ABCDE. He says, have association of the devotees, read the scriptures, do chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, take only Krishna Prasadam as diet, engage in service to devotee, to Guru, and to the deities and Krishna. So the moment we are able to implement this, we'll be in a position to overcome the problems of this life and go back home, back to Godhead successfully. Hare Krishna.